Hello everyone, welcome to AstrologyNewsReport.com. Today is March 30th, 2014.
Presenting an alternate view of world events as seen through the lens of Vedic astrology.
I'm Ron Berger.
And I'm David Anton Savage. Let's take a look at the week that was.
Mars and Rahu were still conjunct in Libra until Monday, March 24th. Both are significators of accidents, whether caused by nature or by the hand of man. Mars, when retrograde, indicates that the pressure and stress has been building up for a long time, ready for release. Rahu adds in the element of the unusual.
On Saturday, March 22nd, in the town of Oso, Washington State, a mudslide of mind-boggling proportions destroyed part of the town, sweeping away 30 homes and killing an unknown number of victims. It covered a square mile of the area and up to 40 feet deep in sections. Rescuers were thwarted by quicksand-like conditions, and it remains a mystery as to how many were actually entombed in the muck. That's Mercury, the planet of numbers, plus Neptune, the planet of confusion, which were exactly conjunct when the event occurred. So far, some 90-plus names are on the list of people who are still missing.
Venus is the planet of values, including things financial. Venus has been in Capricorn, a sign devoted to practical realities. The leaders of the former G8, now the G7, USA, Canada, Europeans, and Japan, minus Russia, had an emergency meeting in The Hague, followed by another meeting in Brussels last week. They huddled over coming up with something that would punish Russia for taking Crimea while simultaneously not messing with the reality of the extensive financial ties between Europe and Russia.
Saturn is the planet of harsh reality, and Saturn is in Venus' sign Libra, in square aspect to Venus. The planet of the established order is also retrograde, making it even harder to effect meaningful changes without running headlong into constraints. But this Saturn-Venus pattern cuts both ways. If Russia isn't careful, the USA and EU could engineer a steep descent of Russia's economy into a full-blown recession.
And another angle on all this was President Obama's very real, that's Saturn, advice, Venus, to the European powers while speaking in The Hague and Brussels, saying that the West must stand firm against brute force, and noting in passing that Russia is just a regional power, that Russia's forceful takeover of Crimea and threatening its immediate neighbors was not a sign of power, but rather of weakness.
Words that are sure to piss off old Vlad, who we know from his chart is rather vain. That's Venus, the planet of vanity, as the ruler of his Libra ascendant in the first house.
Okay, here's a planetary pattern we haven't been paying much attention to. Jupiter directly opposite Pluto. Jupiter is the planet of law, courts, and judgments. Pluto is a significator of destruction and executions. Last week, Egypt's High Court sentenced 529 Muslim Brotherhood supporters of ousted Islamist President Morsi to death after a one-day mass trial.
That's something of a record. 529 sentenced to die, all in one court judgment? Sounds like the Egyptian judicial system has gone in for some extremist activities of its own. Quite the example of Jupiter opposite Pluto.
And last week, Mercury was still together with Neptune in Aquarius, the planet of ideas and reasons, together with the planet of confusion and delusion, in the sign of social ideals. The Supremes heard a rather groundbreaking case last week, which basically boils down to, is a for-profit corporation entitled to religious views? The case involves a corporation, Hobby Lobby, with over 13,000 employees, whose owners wish to be exempt from the Obamacare requirement to provide contraception as part of health care for employees. Specifically speaking, the contraceptions which are abortifacients, like the morning after pill.
This certainly pits religious freedom against women's reproductive rights, but it actually begs the larger question of just how far personhood goes when we are talking about corporations. And underneath that is the basic idea of whether or not your boss's religious beliefs can dictate the limits of your health insurance. It's an interesting illustration of Mercury, the planet of reasons, with Neptune, planet of delusions, in the sign of social idealism, Aquarius.
And here's a fun one, courtesy of Mercury, planet of data and calculations, plus Neptune, planet of confusion and delusion. Nate Silver, famous for predicting the 2012 election results in every state with 100% accuracy, now predicts that the Republicans will regain control of the Senate this November.
Democrats have gone into full panic mode since Mr. Silver has been astonishingly correct in his past predictions using his mathematical models shown on his website 538.com. Yes, the Democratic spinmeisters are trying to play down the prognostications of Mr. Silver, while the GOP pundits are gleefully repeating it ad nauseum.
And there's an interesting Mars retrograde backfire effect possible here. The Nate Silver prediction and the ensuing freak-out response from the Dems will actually motivate the Democrats to get off their duffs and start working on getting their base stirred up to vote in the 2014 election.
And so we conclude this week's review of the week. Be sure to click in with us next week.